So, this is a long time coming. I have this, by the way, this will be my first YouTube upload in, I think, 7 years now. So, for all of you guys who are here that used to watch the Blake Wynn, Just Win channel, it's nice to see you again. I'm bringing back a familiar face who I think we probably already made a couple hundred videos together
At a minimum, yeah.
over the years, but probably none as important as this, probably none that will be as desired by certain people. There's so many people who are watching this situation unfold that you're currently dealing with when it comes to Urban Necessities, who have a financial interest, who have supported you for a very long time and are worried about you, especially as you deal with everything else that you have going on in your family. It's a highly complicated situation that I know some about, but I'm going to learn a lot more about as we dive into this. But I want to break it down, and I want to go about this from a timeline perspective, because there's a lot to digest for people. For those of you who have maybe tuned in to your, I don't know what you call them, maybe rants on social media that last on live for anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes that you've been doing for the last week or so, where you're trying to explain these issues, I think a lot of people have been enlightened that at the bare minimum, something is going on, something major is going on. Consigners have money that's at risk. The business is at major risk. Complex Sneakers posted about it along with other, blogs and people like that on social media. I'm sure you've had a lot of people reach out to you. I'm sure the other side of the equation, if you will, has had a lot of people reach out to them. Urban Necessities made statements. You've made statements. I want to dive into all of it. So let's rewind here. You started the business in 2014. You then, over the course of that business, one quick side note for those of you, because this is like my favorite story with you. In 2014, I was 14, and you and I came together because we're about to talk about how a partnership turned from probably a successful partnership to a very sour one. Is probably more or less what we're going to be discussing here. That might not have been the case if Jaysse had done something different in 2014. I'm kind of ribbing you. But I did offer Jaysse when I was 14 years old $10,000 for 10% of the business. That was, by the way, I think more than what it was worth at the time.
Fair assessment. And, flip side of that coin, maybe I saved you from a lot of unnecessary stuff along the way that's to come.
So 3 years ago, you do a deal where you give up 50% of the business.
Correct.
And you gave that business to what is the other entity?
Surgeon Worldwide. So that's run by Dominic and Bimbo. And Dallas and Bimbo and Dominic Gimbroni, which is known as the shoe surgeon.
And can you say the terms of that deal?
Yeah, I thought I was walking into a 50-50 partnership to run this business, but my understanding now is that I removed myself from operations, even though I still had final say on locations and basically the creative side of the brand. And I held on to the liability of the business, and some of those liabilities have a personal liability, right? And, looking back, the first thing everybody says is, man, that's a horrible deal to sign. But I genuinely felt, with the conversations we were having and the work that had happened in the months leading up to me signing this contract, that, hey, who cares, right? Because if we're doing what I had been doing, which was running a business that, had some overhead and some debt, but it was all manageable debt, and anything that was a debt was paid. Right. I just thought we were going to shoot to the moon. I genuinely thought we were going to shoot to the moon. I'm like, how do you not team up with the guy that's like the pillar and at the forefront of what the standard is for this side of this division of consumerism and customs and deconstructing, reconstructing, and then seeing their presentation with their product. I was just like, this makes a lot of sense for me, right? These are layers I want to add to the brand. This is what we're missing, right? And to see it go how it went, it's...
Well, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
You said people would have looked at the deal and said, this is not a good deal. And you said, in that time, I would have said, who cares, right? What gave you so much confidence to say, I really want to do this deal? It's a wonderful deal. Obviously, partnering with someone who at the time was, a real name in the industry.
Somebody I looked up to, and everything that I had looked at, I felt was good, clean, honest business.
Did you guys need the money that they contributed to the business at the time?
I mean, you can never have enough money, especially when you're trying to expand. What was put into the business, I could have raised, I could have done, I could have sold my personal shoes and put that money in there. We never asked for money. We asked for operational help because remember, the only reason I even went outside and entertained bringing anybody in this business that we had shown we could manage, we could handle, like no matter what was going on. Yes, the world changed, but we were handling it. What I couldn't handle was the 100+ trips that I was, essentially for the last 6 years I've been. This is gonna be the first year that I have under 100 trips in a year, right? Obviously with everything that's going on, but I couldn't continue to travel the way that I was, being the ambassador that I needed to be for the brand and for my family, and also continue to sustain, the foot traffic and the staff, like and handle all the consigners. It was just too much, right? And there was some business practices that, yeah, I'm sure I was a little rough around the edges and they needed some fine tuning and a different set of eyes. And I was at that point very open to some changes in the business, because if I didn't pivot, we were going to have real problems. And my problems weren't revenue. My problems weren't paying. It was just being able to keep it together.
You wanted to scale.
Yeah.
I remember you and I discussing around the time that you were doing this deal, one of the things that you kept bringing up in your desire to do this deal, and it was really actually a big catalyst in why you did the American Eagle deal shortly before this, is you wanted to be able to get new locations. Vegas was crushing, online was crushing. New York, you had the pop-up with American Eagle. But I remember you saying, we're going to have this many locations by the end of this year, this many locations by the end of next year.
Man, I was very excited about potentially being able to the whole thing with American Eagle that I wanted to do. What was very interesting to me was to turn their locations into drop-off centers and fulfillment centers for consigners. And so now when you have, time-sensitive, regional releases, you're cutting down your costs. You're looking like an Amazon model in a sense, right? That was the first thing. And then the other thing too, it wasn't about winning over existing consumers. It was about creating new ones and being able to be at the front of like this newfound like thing, which is sneakers. And it's cool because like I was the guinea pig, and now there's other guys that are executing what I thought it could look like with a lot less layers and friction, right? And so, even when we're doing and going back to this deal, the whole plan was to open more stores. My first 8 months of this, which, I mean, you see on my social media, I'm sitting here saying that I'm going on wild goose chases, but my first 8 months of this was essentially traveling the country, looking at all these different properties, talking to all these different malls about what it would look like, about us having these experiences, because on the back end of it, I'm being advised, hey, your business is worth this. We think we could raise that. And then if we're able to raise these things, then now we have all these additional layers, right? So, at the end of the day.
So you do the deal. I want to slow you down.
Yeah.
You do the deal, and what is the next location that opens after you do the deal?
Well, halfway through negotiating the first deal, I reach out to my friends in Saudi because for, essentially since I started the brand, well, since LV Supreme release, right? And Supreme Ramoa release, I meet these gentlemen from Saudi that are very dear friends that I look at as family, that it went past buying stuff. It got to the point where it's like they're only coming to the store now just to interact with me and catch up with family and this and that. And from the very beginning, even when I was in that very first store, they asked me to open in Saudi. And I was like, guys, I barely know what I'm doing here. But, I was asked so many times by this group that like one day I'm like, you know what? If I ever get close or if I feel like I could handle this layer, I'll reach out to you. And we're like maybe 60% of the deal through with Surgeon, and I'm like, guys, I think...
As in you're still negotiating, actually.
Correct.
You haven't actually done the
right.
deal. Okay.
And so I'm like, guys, I think that I'm pretty close to doing this deal that's going to give me the operational help that I need to be able to entertain and be what I would like to present or provide in Saudi. And so, it happened. We did that deal before I even finished my deal with Surgeon. And... we fell a little short on some of the execution stuff, and it wasn't for my lack of effort. It's just, things that were completely out of my control, and I think there was some misunderstandings on our side of, and I mean as a brand. I don't mean me or like pointing out a fan. Completely as a brand, I think we underestimated some things looking back then. We didn't have realistic expectations of like, when foreign business opens an American division of it to send money and then money gets held up, but then we're trying to procure product that I'm like begging to like not buy yet until the money's in the account, because you don't buy stuff when you don't have money for it yet, right? Like you got to make sure your ducks are in a row, and it just went south. And
the Saudi store went south.
And the relationship went south. The Saudi guys have been great to me. I mean, we've been.
Is the store still there?
Store's been there now 3 years, but they're not operating with our help, right? I mean, I've been extremely.
Is it part of the brand, or are they really?
It's
just
a licensing deal.
They're just licensing it.
It's a licensing deal that, the way the deal was structured, we were supposed to be providing them product, and we were getting, like a cut of the providing, and they were supposed to cover some of the overhead of the appearances and the moving around of like staff, right? And it's bothered me the 3 years of how we've been such a poor brother to this division of the brand, to the point where I dropped everything I was doing and one day went and sat them down when they were all in LA and apologized for definitely reading the room wrong and putting them in a predicament that I can't help them as much as I ideally saw fit. And I've always been a person of principle, and I've said, I don't know where this goes. You should probably change the name. I can't really help you much at this time, but if and when the time comes, like I want to take the steps to make this right, even if a singular dollar doesn't come back in my pocket, because I care about those people and that region more than I care about any dollar I could put in my pocket. And like to show that my relationship is still good with them, I was the one that brought the whole SneakerCon thing to Saudi and was able to put them in the room for them to break bread, and they made their bread, right? I didn't have my hand out in that part of it either.
When you say the deal with the Saudis sort of started going south, you guys were falling short on certain operational things. Were you already terminated by the business at this point when you had this conversation?
No, but I was pretty close to it.
And you knew that?
I didn't know I was going to get fired. No, I don't think I saw that one on the. That wasn't on my my notes at any point.
Okay, so you open Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. You have some issues there, but simultaneously, before those issues actually present themselves, you open Saudi Arabia, you complete the deal with Surgeon.
November 11, 2022, yeah.
And then shortly after that, you opened Del Amo? Was that the next
Yeah, so
move?
Saudi opens, I think, like January, February. I think Del Amo opened... we opened Crystals, right? We opened...
Oh, yes.
It was Crystals that was a pop-up that... Again, one of the things I pointed out at the beginning of this is I have final say on location, and I'm scratching and clawing saying, I don't think this is a good idea.
Why?
I just
Crystal's a beautiful mall.
No,
in Las Vegas.
it's an amazing mall that should have worked if we were able to provide the layers that it needed. We were never able to provide the layers that we needed, and it was like, it's stuff that I wanted to add to the brand, selling designer handbags and like exotic bags and like just creating an even more personalized experience, that there's like VIP rooms and all this other stuff. It's what I kind of try to do upstairs at Caesars, but my foot traffic was so overwhelming that I could never really dedicate the staff to just like closing a door and helping people behind that closed door, right? And providing this like above consumer expectation like experience. And it wasn't that I didn't think it could work. It was I just knew what was in the bank account, and I just couldn't justify, in my opinion, separating the team, because we weren't adding more employees. We were dividing it and then causing them to go back and forth between locations for, we got a store that's doing hundreds of transactions for something that you're only doing like in the teens, right? On a good day, maybe 30 transactions, and your overhead is 2/3 of what your real overhead is. And I just, I could never articulate it in a way where anybody
Did you sign off on that location?
I had no choice, right? Like, I don't have operational say. I did not want that location. There's staff members that are there and not
But
anymore.
if in your agreement, did you have
Well,
final say?
my understanding, yes, I do have final say of locations that got ignored.
So that was that then the first time that you felt like they breached the agreement?
It was one of the first. The second one was Del Amo. I've always wanted something in California. We opened Saudi. Del Amo comes shortly after that, and I was
So this is now early 2023, just to clarify
Right.
on the timeline.
very frustrated with the fact that we're even considering Del Amo because no disrespect to California or the state. I love a lot of my support personally for my brand are people that, take the trek over and come this way. Makes a lot of sense because it's dead smack in the middle of LA, but didn't make any sense to me because the surrounding neighbors of the location, then also there were existing brands in there that I didn't want to necessarily push out, but I just didn't want to create any, I didn't want to create any issues and be the bad guy, the bully coming in and like pushing people out. And then also, who are we catering to? I have a store in Caesars, I have a store in Crystals, and I have a store in Saudi, and now I'm creating a discount general, like a Dollar General iteration. It just didn't really, it didn't make sense, but what I'm being advised is it makes sense because it's in our backyard and we have our hands on it and we could run it from here, but same thing. I'm looking at the bank account because I still have visibility on the bank account, even though I'm not the one controlling money, right?
Mm-hmm.
From November 11, 2022 forward, I never created any bank wires. I never created any withdrawals that weren't with supervision or an employee of Surgeon. I never spent our money. I just kept saying, I don't think that's a good way to spend our money. And so now I have 2 stores that aren't generating the revenue that they're projecting the brand. And I'm sitting here trying my best to not have, express frustration. But I'm human and I'm very wet behind the ears with a lot of this stuff. And I'm trying to express my frustration and why these things are going bad, suggesting that we close these stores. And we're just running it up more and more and more. And then so by September of 23, my concerns.
I want to slow you down really quick
Okay.
on Del Amo. Did you sign off on the location?
Not willingly. Again, there's text messages that I could scrape and conversations I could show you. I even had it in email, even though my email account is deleted. But there's people within the brand, past and present, that if you were to ask them, and to tell the truth, they'll tell you my side of the story, which is I didn't want any parts of this, right? And so, I've been doing retail my whole life. I know malls like the back of my hand. I could tell if a location got it or doesn't. And I people watch. I understand that I could read the room in that sense better than most.
Del Amo had a moment where it really hit the news that everybody wants to know about, which is the Yeezy Gap clothing situation.
What a frustrate. That wasn't
What happened?
That wasn't Del Amo. That was done at their facility at the time. I don't know how much of this I can or can't talk, but we're here, right? So I'm approached by somebody that says, hey, I have access to, containers worth. Containers. Not 1, not 2, not 3, a lot of Yeezy
Shipping
products.
containers.
Correct. And I'm like, well, help me understand how you have access to this. And the explanation to us is that this stuff is part of a deal that, Ye signed that was his allocation of this product. And it was sitting in storage units or in a storage facility that he stopped paying for. And the person that owned it had the right to, ownership of this product at this point. I'm provided bill of ladings. I'm provided the documents to say I feel comfortable presenting this to my partners. So I'm like, hey, I got this unique deal where I got a guy that's down to buy this product if we sell it for him, and this is the split, right? Very fair split, and allowing us to keep the price points at under what the original retail is going to be for this product. My suggestion, which was completely ignored, and was something that they did very out of character, was I suggested that it should be show a handful of SKUs, create first come, first serve for 3 different locations, right? Advise that you have these items available, not in its quantity, and then now you could do this kind of discreetly, right? Because there's a style and grace in doing, like, I don't want to say it's dishonest business, but like this is technically product that
I mean,
these are not-
LAPD ended up investigating. I mean,
they
there was an
did
investigation.
investigate, and yeah, my brand did spend money on lawyers for this. And what they did was, instead of like going the direction that I said, which is show one, not millions, right? You do something very out of character for yourself and sit on top of a bunch of containers and then show that you have all these containers, and then you're trying to create this activation at your facility that isn't capable of handling this type of activation. And I was very concerned for safety. I was very concerned for visibility. And long story short, another part of the bad business dealings on my brand's part, that again, I had no visibility. The police went, they didn't take anything. The police, Dove made a big scene, advised that we were stealing, but he didn't even have an understanding of how the items were acquired. And yeah, it made a lot of noise and people assumed that we stole it, but we weren't fined, we weren't charged, we weren't anything as a brand, right? They're asking for the stuff back because they're like, man, this is a little too volatile, but my brand is liquidating this product behind the doors while we're being asked to take it. And now when we're providing product back, obviously there's some discrepancies, and it took months to the point where I'm not even there anymore, right?
What was the date you got fired?
May 24, I believe May 2nd, 2024. I could be wrong on that date, but I have it in screenshot. I could show you my last paycheck. Haven't been paid since May 24, right?
So now you open up Saudi, there's a little bit of issues, but the Saudis are funding that. You open up Delamo, you guys are funding that. There's issues with that. Take the Easy Gap situation aside. At this point, have you guys started really accumulating debts that you were going to start to have trouble with, or was the business still in a point where it maybe didn't have a lot of money in the bank, but the debts were under control?
I want to assume, because again, I'm not getting full visibility, right? I'm on calls. I'm hearing operational stuff, not not dollar stuff. I'm on these calls. I'm making suggestions. I'm advised to stop talking on the calls, to take notes, to address them. And then the narrative on the other side to my staff is, he doesn't even want to be on these calls. He don't even want to interact with you. And the same thing's being told. I can't answer that honestly, because for 12 years of this, almost 12 years of existence of this brand, I never was the one that handled the money. I never looked at the money. Even when me and Joni ran it, hey, Joni, can I spend this? Yes or no? Joni, can I buy this? Yes or no? And then if it was, we could, but it could create this, well, then we sat down and had the conversations to figure out, are we doing this? Are we sacrificing? Are we stretching? Are we pushing? Or are we just like leaving it, like whatever the outcome was? There was conversation that I was involved in. It's not involved in any of that. So I can't honestly answer that outside of, you now have responsibility for 2 additional payrolls, 2 additional rents, and all the additional logistics, which between that basically is about the same cost of the store. So now you're double spending my money, and all you've done is just created more slices of pizza, not made more pizza.
At any point during this process, despite that you didn't agree with it, was there ever a time where your partners came to you and said, we feel like we need to take a loan out for X amount, and therefore will you sign off on it?
No.
Because you did still own 50% of the business.
Correct.
So even though they maybe had control over it, you'd probably assume that you'd have some level of
I would hope I would
understanding.
know if you're signing off on my brand or my name, or, or even if it's not my name, but it's part of my brand, that I would know you took a loan, right? Or we're trying to get money. I get phone calls all the day that, hey, we see that you're trying to ask for a loan. Even now, I'm still getting those calls. I'm like, buddy, I don't run a business. I don't know why. I've never taken a loan in my life outside of car loans.
Walk me through the conversation in the events that got you fired in
September 23, I'm very frustrated. None of it feels good. I opened Del Amo, and the one thing I remember about Del Amo is there was some product that we were like discounting to kind of be like, doorbusters or whatever, right?
Is Del Amo still open?
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
And we're like always, right? I don't want to say you're micromanaging. We're short on staff. We overlooked some layers as a brand as far as the activation. I wasn't out there as much as ideally wanted to, but again, I don't have really a say. So like anything you're getting from me is a plus. I'm changing prices. Dallas is not thrilled about the price points that I'm trying to put this stuff at.
You're trying to increase the price points.
I'm trying to decrease the
you're
price
trying to
points.
decrease it.
Decrease the price points because one thing I think that nobody will really disagree with is up until that point, I know sneakers, right? And where they should be priced at. I get screamed at top of the lungs. I'll never forget this. I get screamed at top of the lungs in front of my entire new staff that I just, 5 minutes before getting screamed and yelled at, I was expressing gratitude and being thankful, even though I didn't want to open that store. You guys are front line for me. You're trusting in my brand to be able to provide for you, and I'm trusting that you're going to provide for us, right? I'm extremely appreciative of them. And I felt like the little chihuahua that was getting yelled at by its master, in a sense. And it was a real tuck and tail moment for me that I wasn't used to. And I was like, hey, I'd like to take this conversation and discuss it elsewhere. And I tried to open the door, because we were 5 minutes late to opening the door. I'll never forget that. And that didn't feel good at all.
What was the reason he was yelling at you?
The prices.
It was over the prices.
Yeah, it was over the prices and where I wanted. We were already late. There was product that wasn't entered into the system. He was still trying to open. I wanted to recognize, the 20 or 30 people that were outside that were putting in time, energy, and effort to stand in front of, this first interaction. And it was rough, man. And after that, there was a couple of other moments that by November, I'm like, look, none of this feels good to me. I understand that it's completely shifted, and the narrative is now, Jay, don't go in the store. Don't move anything. Anything that you're suggesting takes away from the operational process that we have, and you're adding more. And now the staff doesn't know what to think. But now, as staff is disconnected, fired, let go, or seeing what's going on social media, they're reaching out to me and saying, man, the whole time we were there, they were just telling us you didn't want to be a part of this and that you hated all of it and that you hated all of us. But they made us sign NDAs and this and that. And like, I see what you're going through, and I'm really sorry, right? I can't do anything with that. But it's very frustrating that something that I've cared about so much has been turned like that. So in November, I started addressing my concerns. November of 23. December of 23, right before Christmas, right? There is acknowledgement on the other side that in October of 23, my business was worth $20 million. And that based off of that, I own half. And my entire response to them is, I have absolutely no interest in getting half of the value of the business. Because if I take half, given with the things that you've done over the last couple of years, there's no way that this business succeeds. I need it to work even better without me than when it was with me. Because for me, the way I'm looking at it, I can't sit still. I still want to try to help. I still want to try to create impact or, shift, right? And so I had a text message. It's like, look, man, I want to try to get you what you want. I want to try to help you. Let's do this without lawyers.
You told them you want it out.
I want it out. And by then I had already talked to lawyers, and we had pointed out some breaches in contracts.
Which were what? Yeah.
One of them was that Joni and I were managing members. So when you create a business, you have to report to the state who the managing parties are. Those are the people that are responsible for essentially all of it. So when we sold 50%, Joni relinquished her 50%. At that point, she's supposed to be relieved as a managing member. There was a date on the contract that they needed to do that by. They didn't. Another one of the breaches was that I had final say on the locations. Well, you just opened up 2 that I told you not to. There's that, right? And a bunch of other, like, smaller ones, but those are the 2 main ones. And so now you fire me, 5-6 months later. You're kind of supposed to report that to the state, to the government. And so were there debts before they came in? Was there?
So in the eyes of the government, you and Joni are managing members. In the eyes of the contract, you guys have no operational control.
Correct.
And also in the eyes of the government, one of the managing members of this LLC or S Corp or how are you guys set up? Do you even know?
We were set up in the way that, like, even for the first 2 years of this, Joni and I were still responsible for the taxes for the sales. Like the sales tax, like my personal tax and Joni's personal taxes were still attached to the business.
That means it's an LLC. It was a multi-member
Correct.
LLC.
So that was supposed to be changed. That was another one of the breaches of the contract. They had till December 31st of that first year to do that. They never did it. It took me a year to catch that. I then go to a lawyer. I spend money up until the point where, like, the lawyer's like, look, man, you're going to keep spending money here, and by the time you collect $1, there's not going to be $1 to collect. I would suggest you're at their mercy. You're at their mercy here with this. Find a different way.
Well, it's interesting advice to get from a lawyer because I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just hearing this and I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a second. If in the eyes of the government, you 2 own the business and there's a piece of paper that says otherwise and says that these guys own 50%, but the government says that and they don't want to change that, one of those things has to trump the other.
Right. I'm supposed to be able to go back into the business and run it over and kick them out, and which actually is in the contract that states that I should be able to take ownership and not have to replenish anything that they've put into the brand. But it's complete anarchy over there. No one's listening to me, and it's just me, right? Like I'm trying to get these lawyers to move on it. We're not moving.
And it's got to be hard because you now at this point have no income. People who at home listening who might not know this, I mean, if you're going to have a lawyer who's going to interfere with mergers, acquisitions, business lawsuits of this scale, these people can easily be $600, $1,000 an hour.
Yeah, that's what it's been.
And this is probably, when everything's all said and done, hundreds and hundreds, if not maybe even thousands of hours. So you're talking about legal bills that are
six figures,
easily get into 6 figures.
Yeah.
With that in mind, at what point did Joni get sick?
Joni was sick before we even started.
She was sick before the surgeon deal even started.
That was the whole reason why I even entertained any of this.
And those those medical bills, do you feel comfortable saying how high can those get? Are those
seven figures?
7 figures.
7 figures. I mean, if we didn't have insurance, this is 7-figure stuff. Like, we're paying, thousands of dollars a month to be able to have insurance that takes on the majority of it, but there's still liability for us on these on those. And throughout all this, I'm not even talking about what I've gone through three to five, I think 5 surgeries in the same amount of time. So we were going through it.
So medically, you're spending 6 figures a year. You have no income because you've been fired. So because I think one of the glaring questions everybody has is, okay, so they violated these contracts in these ways based on what you're saying. By the way, I'm a host here, right? They violated the contracts in this way from what you're saying. Everybody's question is, well, why didn't you go after them? Why didn't you sue them? I'm trying to make people understand, because I know this about you personally, that you're in a spot where you have no income. You have 6 figures to spend on your wife who's got serious cancer. You've got 6 figures medical bills to spend on yourself as you go through 5 surgeries over the last 24 months, and you have no income. And so it's not as easy as just, okay, I'll just do that, because
there's not only
the
that,
money's
but
not
you're
in the bank.
you're still trying to negotiate an out, right? So like I said, in December 23, they're sitting here telling me, like, look, I got to get you this money. I'm going to give you this money. I got to do what's right here. There was a time where they're telling me, at least Dom is telling me, we got to do what's right. But then I'm getting, at the same time, while Dom is telling me we got to do this is right, and we agree. I'm like, look, business is worth 10. 20. in October, you tried to do a raise. I ask you for pitch decks that you don't give me, but I find 3 dear friends that are athletes that, you know, will also corroborate my story, that I was like, hey, we're trying to raise this money. And I'll give you an example. Marshawn Lynch was one of them. Dallas and Marshawn Lynch were at my birthday party that year. And we were talking about how we were about to do this raise and yada, yada, yada. And this was the number we were trying to raise. Marshawn was trying to give us the entire dollar amount. Never saw a pitch deck.
And they never raised the money.
We never raised the money. We never raised the money, right? So in December of 23, I get a text message that says, and again, I'm making this very abundantly clear. I said, I want the business to succeed. I don't need the money up front. I just want to make sure that my wife is repaid a loan that she let you borrow that I was very against, but she felt compelled to do. And I was only going to get $500,000 the day that I signed that paperwork up front. And then there was going to be, it was a $4.5 million deal plus an additional $300 as a repayment and my product. And some of my personal items I had to sacrifice in this deal, like pinball machines and all this other, like at this point it's irrelevant, right? So I signed that and I wait and I wait and I wait.
You signed a deal to sell your
correct
portion of Urban Necessities.
So I signed
also before you were fired.
Correct. So I wait and I wait and I wait. Nothing gets signed, right?
They don't countersign it.
Correct.
They send you an agreement to sign. They don't countersign it.
So, and keep in mind, it's their verbiage. It's their contract. It's not like I went to my lawyer and said, hey, write this up. Okay, I signed it. Let me send it to them. No, this is what they're offering me to walk away, right? It goes from, hey, look, man, actually, we can't pay that. We'll give you 3. We'll shorten the non-compete because at this time, non-competes still matter, right? It goes from $3 million. And then I'm like, all right, cool, send it over. At first, I'm not thrilled. I'm like, dude, you're taking another $1.5 million off of me, and I'm only saving like a year here. It's like I could generate that $1.5 million if I'm like whatever. All right, so sign it. I want to sign it. I don't see anything. Then it goes to $1 million. Well, obviously now I'm very frustrated, right? You just took another $3.5 million, and the only thing I'm trying to do is put my wife's money back, and like I care more about my wife's money than my whatever money's coming to me, right? It goes from $1 million to $500,000 in product, but the $500,000 in product that they're trying to pay me with is product that they've taken out of my personal consignment account, my 2J's consignment account, out of an account that they've deleted, and that they just basically put in boxes and let sit there for months and months and months. And I'm sitting here periodically going to the store saying, hey, is this my stuff? To staff. We think it is. And I finally got a, yes, it is your stuff. It is your stuff. And I'm now freaking out because my personal accounts are depleted. I'm not trying to really work. I'm also being told we're not going to bother you if you start something new, so you should probably go start something new. But I'm also hot and cold because I have, with the money that we got from them, I had to pay the taxes that are not only my
You did get money from them.
Yeah, we got a supposed $2 million that, again, we had to pay them $300,000 back. And then...
Who gave you $2 million?
Surgeon. They gave my wife $2 million.
That was to buy the 50% of the business in the beginning.
Which was significantly less than any other deal that I had on the table because it wasn't about money. It was about operational help because, again, I have a business that just needed help. It didn't need money at that time. Not $2 million changes nothing in the sense of this business.
But they did send you that money.
They sent it to Joni, yes. So, okay, they asked almost instantly back for $300K back, right? So to borrow to be able to buy product that, again, I told them, don't buy. They get the $300.
Joni agreed to do the...
Joni agreed to do it, which...
Against your advice.
Correct. $400,000 goes towards taxes because, again...
Yeah, it was income to you. Sure.
Income to us and income, like the income from the business, right? So
well, it's one and the same. When
correct.
You have a multi-member LLC for everyone listening.
Correct.
The way taxes work in multi-member LLCs, whatever money you make, it flows through to you, and then you pay taxes on that.
Correct.
You are looked at, the business entity is looked at as an extension of yourself.
Correct. Which was supposed to be changed.
Right.
when the initial deal happened, and I paid 2 additional years of taxes on a business that I shouldn't have been paying taxes on, right? And I'm itemizing where the money went. $750,000 of that went to buying 2 different properties, right? So we're now living. I bought 2 other properties to move family members.
That's how
here.
you spent your money that
Correct.
you got. That's fine. Because it wasn't an investment in the business.
Correct.
You were selling. So
Correct.
It's
But I'm just explaining because
Yeah,
people
it's
are
your
going to be like,
family.
where's the money?
Yeah, it's your
right?
family's money.
I bought 2 houses that are in like Joni's name because I want Joni to be good, especially what's going on.
And it was her money, actually.
Correct.
Because you kept your 50%. She actually
Correct.
sold her 50%.
Correct. So buy 2 houses, we move family members in there. And ironically enough, here I am in a scenario where we're now listing the houses and are going to have to use that for whatever taxes, liabilities, or lawyers along the way. And the additional, couple $100,000 that are left is what's been funding essentially
The medical bills.
the
and everything
medical
else.
bills and the liabilities. Like we don't have the craziest overhead, but we do have. It's not even a lifestyle. It's just these are the needs of what we currently have, right? We have 1 car, pay for that, and feeding these families.
So you get fired in May of 2024. What was the cause they gave you, and how did that go down?
They said my unwillingness to be able to participate in the brand's calls, right, was one of the reasons. My frustration and why I stopped getting on the calls was because as I talked to lawyers, they said, hey, they have a fiduciary responsibility to show you what's going on with the business on paper, even if you're not running it.
That's right.
Right? So if your calls are about day-to-day operations and I don't have any say in the day-to-day operations, and then you're telling me to not talk on the calls and that I don't have a say, and then I'm giving you notes and you're not pivoting or acting on any of it, why am I on the call? I never got a legitimate answer, right? It was, we need you on the call. And so I said, look, I'm struggling being on calls. And in hindsight, should I stayed on the call? Sure, I should have, right? But put yourself in my shoes. You're sitting here pointing out all the things that you feel are wrong or detrimental to a brand or in how you're conducting business with your 37,850 plus consigners. And you're doing, and I understand that you got to make changes because you guys run the ship now. But I didn't have any of these problems.
So they were able to cite insubordination because they told
I
you to
get
get
fired.
on the calls and you didn't.
I get fired. It goes to $500,000 in product that they're telling me that they're going to take. By the time I get in there, it's not. By the time I get in there, an acknowledgement from staff, yes, this is your product. And I asked the staff, all right, well, if this is my product, I'm at a point where I have to take this product. This is my product. I need to do what I need to do for my family. And so I went in the store. I asked the staff, can you take these items and put them in this vehicle? They put them in that vehicle. And then I took the steps that I had to do to sell my personally paid items to be able to provide for my family, right? These are items that were paid for by Jaysse Lopez or TwoJsKicks, which, yes, they also have operational say in this business, but they haven't allowed me, they haven't helped me at all. They actually alienated it and kept telling me stop doing anything with this brand because it's taking away from your main brand, right? And it goes from 500,000 to now you're telling me I stole, but it's my product that I consigned.
Well, so let's get to, so now we've laid the foundation down. How does this news even break that consigners aren't getting paid out? Because that's ultimately what's brought this issue to the forefront, what's made you speak out.
It's going crazy on social media, right? Like I'm getting tagged in Facebook groups and posts, and I'm obviously, like, I have great relationship with my consigners. I'm the main guy that got them involved, right? So people are hitting me up. They're like, Jay, what do I do? I'm like, listen, man, I'm very sorry. I'm not over there. But if I were you, these are the steps I would take. So if you get my attention, which I wasn't going out of my way to not get your attention or pay attention, but there's hundreds, if not thousands of times that I've had interactions over the course of 3 years of, go get your shit. Please go, because I can't help. Even now, I'm picking people up from the airport, dropping them off at the store. Go handle what you need to handle, and if you need my help, I'm the first one to help you, right? And so while that's going on, we get to 500,000 in product. And I'm like, 500,000 in product that I don't even get 500,000 in product out of this store. And they're going to say differently. I'm going to show you differently. I could show you the transactions and moves that I had to make, who I had to sell stuff to. That helped me, right? I don't even remember the date of this meeting, but I do remember it's the last time that I saw Dallas, Isaac, and Dominic, all three in a room, that we're talking about the brand. Isaac is like, throughout all of this, is explaining like, yeah, man, I sympathize with you. Like, you're right. A lot of this would have never happened if we listened to you, right? More often than not, that's said to me over the phone, not through text messages, because I get it, right? And we're having a meeting at Joe's, and I'll never forget, because I try to show up early. I always, if you tell me to be here at a certain time, I try to be there earlier than that, just so I could read the room and be there and show respect, right? And I'll never forget, the three of them are sitting there at Joe's eating calamari, stuff in their face, and I sit down, and I'm like, look, man, I'm not here to scream, yell, argue anymore. There's been times in the past where Dallas, when him and I had differences, he's basically said we could go outside and resolve this with bats. I mean, like, I'm not here for that. I still have to work with you, even if I get a good one off, you know what I mean, or vice versa. There's been times where prior to that, like when I first started having concerns, that I went to Dom and I jumped in my car and I said, hey, man, I have a real problem with how business is being conducted. And Dom is replying to me, that's above my pay grade. I'm paid to look the other way, right? And I sit down and I said, I just want to hear what the offer is at this point, because I really want to get out of this. And they said, here's the deal. We're going to give you zero. You're going to get nothing. You're not going to get anything back. That's it. Obviously, I was very frustrated. As you could imagine, real emotion. And I said, you guys could have saved your time. You could have told me this shit over the phone. You could have sent it over as an email, you know. And that took a couple more months. And on October 8th, I also get paperwork from them. It's the last one I signed, which was, I get my name back. I get 2J's back. Joni gets her $300,000 back if I don't bring up a stink. And in every single iteration of a contract of me being able to walk away, it's don't talk, right? And so I signed it. And then...
Did they sign it as well?
No, they did not.
So they kept sending you contracts...
Wasting more time.
With agreements that they were paying for, that actually the business was paying for, which is probably why the business is in so much debt now. Part of it is they've racked up a lot of legal bills going through all this. But they never countersigned any of these agreements, so therefore they never had to act on them.
And it's cheaper to pay for lawyers than it is to have me and Joni on salary, right? And
well, and simultaneously, every time you do one of these agreements...
It buys more time.
You were acting according to the agreement, despite the fact the agreement never had any validity because they didn't countersign it.
So... I've now 4 different lawyers, hoping to get a different answer or resolution, trying to get these guys to act. I go to the police, I go to the FBI, I go to the Better Business Bureau, and I'm just at my wit's end, right? Because, like, they're telling me, look, man, we're just gonna leave you alone. Do whatever you want. Go open another business, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter, right? And yeah, did I go open another? Did I actively try to start another brand? Yes, I have. Have I been consistent with it? No, I have not, because life, right? And you know, I hear nothing from them, even though I've reached out to them a multitude of times throughout, until the beginning of this month, where they're telling me, hey, we want to file a bankruptcy. And at this point, with all the stuff that's happened, I ask a genuine question. Why would I help you? I remove my emotion. I pick the phone back up. I'm like, help me understand. In helping understand, I'm being advised numbers that I don't even know how we got here. You know what I mean? And
Can you give context?
Yeah, you're telling me you got a 7-figure debt, right? And so I don't understand how you got here because, again, for 3 years, I don't log into the bank account. I don't get emails about your transactions, who you're paying out. I don't have access to consignment logs. Everything, my admin's deleted. My email got deleted May 2nd of the year before. And the week after that, the following Wednesday, my personal bank accounts, the money in 4 of our personal bank accounts get seized, as long
By
as
who?
by the Department of Taxation for the state of Nevada, as well as the money that's in the main account for Urban Necessities. So obviously, you wake up, you got these notifications that your balances are low, but I don't have any real debt outside of my car. And so I pick up the phone, I go to the bank, I go, I think there's got to be some sort of mistake. Like, what is this debited transaction going on? And it's like Department of Taxation. And I'm like, well, I haven't heard from anybody in the Department of Taxation. I've actually never spoken to anybody of the Department of Taxation in the history of my brand. In the history of my brand. Never have. My wife was the touch point on stuff like that. My wife was handling it. Did I have a debt with the Department of Taxation? Sure did. Even before they came. Was it a number that it was at when I picked up the phone? No, it was not. There was actually a plan in place, a payment program that was paying that debt off. Almost every business has, almost every retail business, every retail business has this liability of paying taxes. And sometimes you miss it, right? Not because you're not trying to pay it. There's just things happen, right? And we had a fine for paying a tax late, and we were paying that debt. More than half of that debt had been paid off before they came into the picture. Now, in every part of negotiating, Joni and I are advising, hey, like, this is a business liability, even though it has a personal liability attached to it. For us to be able to do this deal, we need you to take ownership of this tax. Not that I'm trying to pass it off, but it's like, hey, if I'm not going to be here and it's the business that's generating the revenue that it's supposed to, well, you're going to pay it anyway. You have to pay it, right? So, and in all my contracts of walking out that I signed, that they sent, that they wrote, they're taking ownership of it. Even my one where it's 0. So the day I get fired is the day that people start having problems in collecting money. Almost instantly. So I can't help but feel...
So consigners, there are consigners who've sold products dating back to last June that have not been paid at this point.
There's consigners that claim they haven't been paid in 3 years, and it came out of Isaac's mouth too. When I had another meeting with them. So 2 weeks ago, my accounts get frozen. That Friday, I'm in a meeting with Isaac, Dom, and our partners from Saudi, right? And Isaac states in that meeting that there's consigners that haven't been paid in 3 years.
And where does that money go?
That's a great question.
Do you know if these 3 guys, Isaac, Dallas, and Dom, do they pay themselves salaries from the business?
I don't know.
If you were a consignor, what would you do?
If I were a consignor, the first thing I would do is I would send an email request with red receipts advising your genuine concern. If I was a consignor and I had the ability to be able to get on a plane, drive in a car, and go to the store, and whether you have 1 item, 100 items, 1,000 items, whatever the amount, anything you could get out of this store is better to get it out of this store than it getting potentially, right now, what it is inevitable. If I don't get to go back in there and fix it, or at least try to fix it, or these guys don't start paying the debts that are owed, what is inevitable is that the doors are going to have to close. And if the doors have to get closed, product is going to get seized. And then that product is eventually going to sit in a room, and then it's going to be sold for pennies on the dollar, and it's first come, first serve on who gets paid. I am very concerned for the amount of product that they claim that they have that I have no visibility on. I walked that store 4 or 5 days ago based off of what Isaac advised me was the dollar amount in inventory. I have currently no way to prove that that's there. It's very concerning for me.
Well, if they've been selling consignor shoes,
Which they have.
and then not been paying out the consignors, which it sounds like they also have, it sounds to me like they're stealing consignors' products. Is that fair to say? Or?
I think it's a very fair assessment.
Well, they're stealing the consignors' money.
Yeah, at a minimum, they're doing that. But here's two things that are going on that I've found out in the last week, right? I have people that are saying, "Hey, are these your shoes? Like, are these personally shoes that you were missing out of your stuff that you had in there?" And I said, honestly, I have no track record because the email that I had all the visibility and stuff and data going and receipts for is a deleted email. Right? Because it was all business. It was,
right.
This is the business email for me. But in there are items from consignors that I know this is the only possible consignor that could have this. And at no point in time did me as a brand, while I was there, say to said consignor, "Hey, I want to buy this on behalf of Urban Necessities." There's no need to if you've consigned it to me. Why would I buy your product? That's number one. Number two, I have other consignors that are hitting me up and say, "Hey, in chasing my money, in trying to get my product back, I am being offered other product as payment."
So basically other people's stuff is being offered.
I don't know, because I don't know if you took my money and bought product that you shouldn't have. And I don't know if this is product from other consignors because I don't have any visibility on that. But to me, it's head scratching because, again, I have 8 years of never doing business like that. I have 8 years of never doing business like that. Do I have 8 years of clean, honest, never made a mistake business? No, I don't have that. Do I have 12 years of every single time there's ever been a problem with me or my brand or somebody that's representing my brand that I take accountability for and turn the camera on every single time and say, "Hey, I need to let you know about my mistakes before I let you know about my wins"? I think you got 12 years of that. And so it's very frustrating that there's no way that I could explain this in such a watered down way that everybody could understand the severity of it, and then not take accountability. It's hard. It's impossible. I'm trying to take accountability for something, yes, that I'm black and white. I have half of the responsibility, and I want to fix it. I've spent at this point hours on social media advising the community, even if it cost me my house, even if it cost me the roof over my head. The one thing that I have to do is make sure that I at least showed the world that I made a conscious effort to try to make it right and not run away from it.
But you're obviously not at fault, given that you've had no exposure to it and you've been removed from the business. You've been fired from.
I don't want to say I'm not at fault because, again, it was my decision to bring these people there. I am very
that part of it.
I'm very frustrated that on top of that, right? I can't wait till the day the truth comes out, where some of my business practices 100% done correctly. That's for the law to decide, right? Am I trying to take accountability for things that happened under my watch or not? It is for me to take ownership of. That is all I'm trying to do. And I'm going to try to, like I said, whatever I am responsible for, when we're at the register and they say, "Mr. Lopez, this is what you owe," that is what I'm going to try to pay, right? I can't do that without the help of the community at this point. I can't get in there without the help of the community at this point, helping me bring awareness. Make whatever decision you want about me. Think whatever you want about me. At the end of the day, I am trying to put an end to this. I have been trying to put an end to this for the last 3 years. I got to the point, everybody's asking, "Well, why'd you wait 3 years?" I was trying to get my wife's money back. When every single time I talked to my...
you weren't aware of a lot of these other issues until very recently.
At all, right? And the Department of Taxation, I'm like, "Dude, how did we even get here?" And they're like, "Well, we've been trying to reach out to you." I've never gotten an email, a phone call, a knock on the door, a letter, anything, right? Now these guys are sitting here saying that I've been stealing, and that I've been taking loans, but I have no problem showing you my credit history. I've never applied for a loan. I've never funded my lifestyle from a loan, right? I've always funded my lifestyle from revenue that I created from 2Js, and its content and its appearances and buying, selling, and trading like every other consignor in my brand, right? And I just don't like. I could keep giving you receipts and receipts and receipts of me digging out of my personal pocket to fund that business. And yeah, it's in that sense sloppy, right? In that sense, I shouldn't have. But I believed so much in what we had going. And I cared so much about the community that I took these steps because I knew that as long as I gave that thing a fighting chance, it would work. Because I had the community.
So many moments, so many of them I've been a part of Urban Necessities that were challenging long before.
Man, bro, you've helped me with so much.
Long before Surgeon and
You remember
Company
when you
came
helped me
in.
move from the 250 square foot store to the 1,400 square foot store? I'll never forget that night.
3 a.m. on a school night. My mom wanted to kill me. I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And me and
That was a lot of fun.
Me and my dear friend Matt Lamb, who's still one of my close friends, who you've known since he was also a little kid, were pushing
The dollies.
pushing the dollies down the hallway with the lights cut off in the Boulevard Mall, which is in a bad part of Las Vegas. Bad in the sense of its
Yeah,
safety.
it's not what it used to be.
Bad in the part of its safety, not bad in any other way. All the travels, triumphs, you created so many things. The Keymaster, the 10% consignment rate. I never saw that anywhere in the world before you, and that was kind of how the business started. Going to SneakerCon and buying U-Haul's worth of shoes was not really a thing that anybody ever did. The unreleased Yeezys before there's so many moments that I can even think of. But then there's this. There's American Eagle, which had some ups and downs as well. How are you going to remember what you did with Urban Necessities? This was a huge chapter of your life. 30% of it.
It was a fourth of my life so far, and it'll probably be the rest of my life.
Why do you say that? You don't think you're at the tail end of this?
I think that the PTSD that is created from the last 3 years are going to be things that are going to probably haunt me for the rest of my life. I think there's going to be a lot of moments. I have a million moments. I have more positive moments than negative, right? It's really difficult for me to walk in that mall and look that way into the direction of the brand because the last 3 years of that has not been us, and the world sees it. The comments confirm that. How do you ignore something that changed your way of life? Not the monetary side of it, the experiential side of it, like how you conduct business, how you treat people, how you interact with people, how people look at you, how people allow or don't allow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm forever indebted to the millions of people that walked in those doors, the millions of people around the world that have talked about my brand in a positive, negative light. It all created conversation. It all created awareness. All I ever asked for was to try to create a place where people from all walks of life could interact and coexist, right? We did that. And some of my business practices are best business practices. Some of my shortcomings are probably going to be put in history books, right? And, like, I look at my life. I'm like the sneaker version of Rocky. I'm in the American greed part of my life. And I'm either going to be Tony Stark's vibes where, like, I get a new heart and I'm kicking ass, or I'm going to be the one where his fingers get snapped and I'm gone. But at the end of the day, it gets talked about. And my participation sticker isn't going to help me pay bills. My participation sticker isn't going to... It's not going to have me stop working. I mean, I think everybody in the room, everybody watching the content, anybody that's reading what's going on understands I have to replenish the last 3 years and recuperating life savings that I may or may never get. I'm in right now, if it ended today, I lose millions of dollars in properties. I've lost millions of dollars that I've had in my personal bank account. I've lost millions of dollars in other assets, and I lost a business that was worth $20 million. Something that I started with $40. Do I regret it? Not one bit. Do I hate that I'm like every other athlete in a sense of like I just tore, my Achilles or ACL and I could never go do it again, maybe? Yeah, it sucks.
You don't think you have it in you to build a business like this ever again?
Oh, I'm not going to be able to sit still till I build something. This really put a fire under me. One that I thought for the last 3 years I lost, but I can't ask to build. I can't ask for support. I can't try to create until I get this addressed. This might take 1 day. This might take 6 months. This might take 10 years. I might lose my wife while this happens. While the whole entire time that this has been going on, my wife is like, so I'm not going to see my money. So we have to move. Like, I have to help her walk at times. I have to help her eat at times. Joni's lost so much weight. She's not sleeping. It's like there's so many things that I have to like address and correct before I could ask the community for forgiveness and support, right? And all I want to do is take accountability.
You feel like you owe people an apology?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. On paper, I created this mess.
By bringing them in?
On paper, I created this mess. If it wasn't them, it would have been some wind gust that I wouldn't have been able to foresee. I'm not hiding from that. But I do want you to remember 8 years of business that every single time there was a flaw or some friction, accountability was there. You can't forget that. And you can't say that the behavior of my brand matches anything that you knew me for up until that point, you know? And I'm going to keep campaigning regardless of what the consequences are, whether that's defamation. I don't care at this point. I lost everything. I'm still on the cusp of losing even more. But I'm not going to lose my integrity. I'm not going to give up my principles. And I'm not going to keep fighting for the people that put me on this platform. That's it.
There are a couple of questions that people who've watched all your live streams and know what's going on have been asking. And so I want to give you a chance to answer those questions here. They came across via my Instagram story. What was the moment that made you decide to speak out publicly, given most of the damage at this point has probably already been done?
Well, the last lawyer that I paid, a $20,000 retainer and one sit down, one phone call, and 3 text messages cost me like $11,000. Basically gave it to me as clear as I possibly could understand it. He made it. He wrote it in a language that dummies could understand. And I recognized that I had nothing to lose, and I'm trying to get these guys to come back at the table. This is what it's going to take for me to get these guys in a room to actually take some acknowledgement instead of continuing to create unnecessary ass debt.
What do you think was the most costly mistake that's been made here? I know you want to keep saying it's bringing them in, so I'm going to make you choose something else.
The most costly mistake.
Let me ask you it this way.
Yes.
What do you think is the most costly mistake that they made?
The most costly mistake I made is that every single time my brand had a hardship, a strain, or a bottleneck, instead of me sitting down, slowing down because pride and ego, I would just go outside and generate more money. Right? And not realizing that I should have slowed down and explained to staff in a way that they could understand the severity of why I was going in certain ways, right? You said yourself, I started this brand with 10% margin. By the time I got to Caesars, I was trying to operate on 15% margin. But I was at the mercy of the willingness of my staff wanting to work. I should have corrected the processes and procedures. I should have slowed down. I should have stopped traveling for 6 months instead of going to trade shows, trying to, shake hands and kiss babies and get more consigners. I should have just made it better for the consigners that were there in the first place. That's my biggest mistake and regret.
Is there anything that could transpire that would make you take the reins back, not just to damage control, get their consigners back, but actually recontinue UN, go back to being TwoJsKicks CEO of Urban Necessities, go back to trying to scale Urban Necessities and
there's a world where that could happen, right? But I think that there needs to be a lot of unearthing things that have been done in the dark, right?
Like what?
How much money did you really spend in 3 years compared to what you made? That's my bottom line. How much money did you spend on what you claim you spent compared to what we generated, because that is going to tell me how good of or bad of it, or how reckless of an operator we were, right? So that's the first one. And is the damage that has been done over the last 3 years of having, giraffe, pricing that foot traffic has seen for 3 years, horrible communication for the last 3 years, and an inability to pay consigners over the last 3 years. Is the damage so grand that I can't fix it? That's a legitimate question that I won't be able to answer until, I get some real factual data from a non-biased side, right? We're going to have to get a real company in there to do this pull this information and understand it. And could I, rally the troops and say, hey guys, I want to fix this. These are the things I'm going to need. Is there anybody that wants to help me? Not asking to make it somebody else's problem, but I'm pretty sure that I could create some sort of campaign that helps me get the tools I need. Whether that be raising money and I just do it myself, or somebody comes in and becomes the operator that I could only dream about, right? And I'm, the guy that, runs the brand. There's a world that exists, but I don't, today, current day Jay, current situations, lack of answers. All I want to do is go in there to just give people what's left.
Do you think crimes have been committed here?
I have no way today with the information I have to prove it, but in my heart, I feel like a lot of what was done was very wrong.
Like what?
I mean,
you think that
from a fiduciary responsibility, you didn't report to the state the accountability that you were supposed to, which is take ownership of the brand. That's one. So now you're conducting business in a business that you shouldn't even be representing or a part of, and it should have still been mine. So yeah, I feel that's kind of criminal, right? I'm not accusing you. I'm just telling you. I feel that was kind of criminal, right? Then my money went somewhere. My money went on things that I told you not to do. My money went on things that I told you not to do that my contract states I had the authority to tell you not to do. And then you're applying for loans and not even giving me the heads up. You're being chased by the Department of Taxation. You know that I have a liability. You could have, if you had an ounce of humanity in you. Hey, Jay, look, we're not going to pay this bill. We can't for a multitude of reasons. But you got a real problem, personal liability. You should probably go talk to these guys and work it out, right? You could have saved me my house. You could have saved me the last $274,000 that we had in our bank accounts. That was money we were using to pay our mortgages. That was money we're using to pay hospital bills. That was money that I was using to feed three. I just moved my mother back out here. I'm taking care of 3 people that can't work right now.
What is the emotion that you feel?
Betrayal. I've worked so hard to build something for the community, to just have it taken out of my hands and just watch people just, for lack of a better term, gangbang the shit out of it to the point where there's nothing left. And now you're over it because you bukkakied over this whole thing. Excuse my language, but it's why would I want it back? Why would I want to walk in there? That's disgusting to me, what's happened in there. It's inhumane what's happened in there. It really is.
Is this the kind of thing that ends up on American Greed one day?
I mean, today, yeah, I hope so. I really do hope so. And I hope that everybody pays. And I'm sure that I will have something to pay at some point. I'm not, again, running away from it. But yeah, in that meeting where I was told to walk away with zero, the one thing I said before I walked away, and I looked them all dead in the eyes, I said, this isn't right, but I guarantee you I will be the last person you do anything like this to. And I can't help but feel that there's got to be a couple other people that have worked for me, that they got screwed, have tried to bend businesses that they were partnered with Surgeon, that they got done the same way as me, or even employees. There's employees that said, hey, I was working for free during this, and then I got fired because they stopped paying. Like, so there's labor law issues. There's so many issues here. Like, and I'm at fault for some of it. I'm not running away from it.